It's about time to get with the program.
Hey, look at that! Is this Jesse? It's episode 23.
23 already.
We've done 23 of these fucking things since the beginning of the year. Yeah. And maybe 23 people have heard it. So
Sweet. I've heard it like 23 times. So.
yeah, right. You're the one that keeps liking all the videos, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Hey, everybody. Progressive Rampage with you as always is Chris up in Maine. And who's that here with me as well?
Jesse, deep south.
Deep in the south. And Mr. Josh is off saving the planet at the moment. But I do believe he's going to chime in later to give us his flavor on all of the stuff we talk about today. So I guess, Mr. Jess, you had the topic pick. So take it away, sir.
Well, today we're going to kind of talk about someone who, I mean, if you do a deep dive into this guy, he's absolutely amazing. But history is written by the victor and, the grubby coin hoarding bastards of the world, and it's Nikola Tesla.
Nikola Tesla.
Oh yeah, this guy is
amazing. As the car, right?
No, it's not the same as the car. Obviously, I mean that's Elon Musk, but I think he named it Tesla as kind of a fuck you to everyone, because like I said, I mean we're using shit today that Tesla designed back in the 1900s.
Right.
So I mean we'll make it real quick. I mean it's the typical story, like I've been listening to a lot of George Carlin lately, and the one thing that keeps sticking in my head is when he talks about the American dream. Well, they call it the American dream because you got to be asleep to believe it. And the perfect example is the story of Tesla. Like, he's from Croatia, very smart child, goes through and finishes high school really quick. I think he graduated high school around the age of 17. And some of the stories that I've seen and I've read is he was able to, early on as a child, to basically do calculus in his head. And
that's
impressive. He was basically a real life Sheldon, if you will. I mean, this guy was extremely intelligent. About the time he's getting ready to go to university, I do believe he came down with a bad case of cholera. Now, because he's Serbian, which was now technically is Croatia now.
Right.
He got really sick, and after he graduated high school, he had two options: was to either become a priest, which is what the family was pushing, or join the military. But when he got sick, they figured he was going to die of cholera, and he basically said, if I had something to look forward to and live for, I could probably pull through. So he made a deal with his dad and basically said, look, if I get over this and I get better and I don't die, let me go study mechanical engineering at university, which is what he did.
Nice.
There's quite a few little stories out there about him during this time, but basically he became, I think around year 3 or year 4, he became addicted to gambling.
Whoa! And, I didn't see that in the biography.
Oh yeah. So basically, he ends up losing his scholarship, and he ends up losing his tuition money, and he ends up losing his allowance from his parents in his last year of university.
Yeah.
But when you start looking at as the history of him goes along, I think the reason he got addicted to gambling was because this guy had OCD. But I think it was one of those things where he's trying to figure out how to beat that. Now he does originally.
He saw it as a puzzle, yeah.
Exactly,
yeah.
And I mean, people with OCD, or there's pills out there that I think Ambien will give you gambling addiction. There's quite a few meds out there that fuck with the brain enough that it'll trigger you to become a hardcore gambler.
Wow. Oh, so it doesn't necessarily directly give you gambling addiction. Kind of like Ambien doesn't make you racist, but it can trigger parts of your head that are going to be associated with that later on, and it's almost an inevitability that you'll end up sliding into that problem.
Yeah, exactly. And if it's not that, then it's something high risk. It screws with the wiring in your brain.
Jump out of airplanes and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So he goes through, his university career and everything else, loses all that money, loses the scholarship, and basically gets drummed out of school.
Yeah.
He wins enough money back to pay his parents back, but he never actually graduates from university with it.
Who needs paperwork anyway?
Well, exactly. So, he's obviously from the things that I've read and things I've watched is they make a big deal out of this, and he's like, well, screw this. I've shamed my family, blah blah blah. I don't think it was that. But he decides he's going to jump on a boat and go to Budapest, and then from Budapest he hits the United States, and he hits in New York. So comes to New York, and I've seen reports of he had 25 cents up down to 4 cents.
I read the clothes on his back. Yeah,
pretty much. I mean, and that's quote unquote the American dream. You come to this country with nothing. Well, he comes to this country basically with nothing, and instantly gets fucked off the boat, gets fucked in his job, gets just literally America just fucks this guy over. And I say America because who do we identify as the bastions of the great American system? It's just capitalists. Yeah. Now, anyone, and I've often argued this, a lot, is they'll talk about Edison. Edison, oh, what a great man. Edison, what a great... No, Edison was he was the typical fucking billionaire that we even see today.
Edison, from what I've read, Edison and Tesla were kind of like, Tesla was a scientist and Edison was a businessman who understood science.
Right. Well, Edison was somewhat of a scientist in his own rights. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Well, he has all those inventions. I'm not discounting that, but his focus was like on building wealth rather than educating the world or something.
Yeah, but you got to be careful when you start talking about all of his inventions, because Edison is credited with the light bulb. He Steve Jobs that shit. He Bill Gated that shit. He insert slimy fucking billionaire name here. He trumped it.
Absolutely.
Okay. He took other people's work and...
Fucked over Marconi too, right?
No. Marconi fucked over Tesla.
Ah, right. We'll get to that later.
We'll get to that here in a minute. Okay. But basically what happens is Edison is known for creating the light bulb and the incandescent this and blah, 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 and the DC motor. Well, Tesla, long story short, ends up working for Edison, and he's, maintaining equipment, he's doing this, and he's seeing all the problems wrong with the direct current motor. He's seeing that it's highly inefficient, they spark, and when they spark, they tend to melt, and when they melt, it's a lot of fuckery going on. But that's because Edison stole that technology. He took someone else's work and was first to rush it to market, if you will, thus creating it, oh, it's mine. So, I mean, technically Edison is following the American plan of, oh, look, there's a country. I discovered it. Oh, there's Indians here. We're going to buy your land, or we're going to kill you, or we're going to say, but he still gets the credit for it.
Wow.
So the biggest fucking that he gets in the beginning, early on in America, is he goes to Edison and says, look, your motors are inefficient. Your motors are this. Your motors are shit. They spark. I can improve on this design, and I can make them run better. And Edison says, sure, go ahead. And if you can do it, I'll give you, I think at the time it was $50,000. I could be wrong. But in today's money, I mean, we're talking like $1 million contract.
Yeah, right.
So so Nikola Tesla does. He goes through and he works on it for, I think almost a year, comes out, makes them what we see today, highly efficient DC motor, very, very little maintenance, everything else. And then when he goes to collect from Edison, Edison looks at him and goes, oh, that's one thing you need to learn about us Americans and our sense of humor. I wasn't serious about paying you the money.
No shit. What a fuckhead.
Yes.
Oh, he was getting fucked and he didn't even know it.
You're getting fucked and you don't even know it.
Oh, exactly. I mean, and he was going along with the agreement that they made. I mean, if someone told me, hey, you're good at this, and if you can improve on this design, I'm going to give you, $500,000 to improve, I don't know, an antenna and a fucking cell phone. Okay. Well, if I do that and then you turn around and say, oh, I was just joking, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm just joking. That's my technology. You don't get it.
That's why you got to get writing, folks.
But here's the big difference. And this is what I argue all the time when it comes to people of religion, people of faith, people of this. You don't need this made-believe comic book bullshit up to be a good human being. Nikola Tesla, who at one point in his life, and we'll get into that with Westinghouse, basically turned down $380 billion.
Jesus Christ.
Because he owns patents and he owns royalties, and we'll get into the Westinghouse thing here in a minute. But the biggest thing is that Tesla was a humanist. He wasn't religious. He didn't want to, feed into the whole Jesus Christ this or this religion or that religion. Everything this man did was specifically for the betterment of humankind. That's why he wasn't rich. That's why he died broke, alone, and crazy as fucking batshit.
Yeah.
And so he let Edison go. Well, then he started looking at all this other stuff. And that the big thing, and a lot of people basic understanding is this. You have two electrical systems that we work with today. Direct current, which is batteries. Okay? Yeah. And then you have alternating current, which is AC. All the houses, all our electronics, everything that we have runs off of AC. There's even a part on your vehicle that your vehicle starts with direct power or DC. And then once the motor started, then the alternator kicks in and it turns everything into AC. If I understand all that correctly.
So that's why you got to get the big block to convert the current.
Correct.
Converter to plug in old stuff. Like they don't do that much anymore. Maybe with a laptop, but it used to be like if you wanted to play a video game on your ColecoVision or your Atari, you had to plug this big monster box into the wall in order to convert the electricity to make it work.
Right. Okay. So basically, all of this stuff starts going on, and then Edison is pushing DC power to light up the world or to light up America.
Yeah, and it's also the easiest way to charge for it.
Exactly, because DC is extremely inefficient for power transmission. So basically, you could only send enough DC current to light up a house or to light up, basic little electronics about a mile. And after a mile, you have to have a relay station or another power generation.
Yeah, the direct current. Right.
Right. Not only that, it took extremely large cables to push that much power through to make it viable on the other end. So what Tesla came up with was AC, which is alternating current. And basically the way it works is again, I'm not an electrical engineer. I know enough not to play with electricity anymore just because I've fried myself a few times.
No more forks in the wall now.
No. Or trying to learn how to solder with the old style pointer and then connecting those 2 points together with a broken piece of solder. Sucks.
Whoa.
Oh yeah.
Shocking.
So basically the way it works is that the current is sent in a higher voltage and then it goes through again. I know anyone that listens to this, if there is anyone who knows anything about electricity, is screaming at me right now. But basically AC allows you to send larger quantities of power at voltage instead of amperage. So voltage, it's why you can take 50,000 volts from a taser and not die, but you take I think it's 1.3 milliamps around the heart, stops your heart.
Yeah, right.
So voltage is, higher voltage may not necessarily kill you. It's the amperage that does.
Right.
So basically his idea was you send all of this power in an alternating sine, in the sine wave, and basically allows you to send high voltage across these wires really, really quickly, and they don't got to be super thick, just to be transformed at the other end, thus the transformer, which then turns around and collects it all and pours it out at a higher amperage, if I understood that correctly.
And then you have to step it back down when it comes into a house. That's
Correct.
why your refrigerator has a different number on it than everything else. I think everything's 220. And your refrigerator is like 440 or something. But
right.
Yeah.
Same thing with the dryer. But basically what it does is it allows you to send a vast amount of current or voltage. And then at the points where you need it, then you can step it down, step it up, transform it, add it all back together into whatever you need to run that object. Well, the thing is during this time, it was a race between Edison, DC, and Tesla, AC. And Edison was actually going around and paying school children to kidnap neighborhood pets. And he would pay them 25 cents per pet. And what he was doing is he was trying to run a smear campaign to basically say that AC current is so dangerous, it'll kill you, it'll fry you, and everything else. And he was giving public demonstrations of him electrocuting cats and dogs. And then in New York, right before I think it was right before the World's Fair, him and I want to say it's J.P. Morgan, but I could be wrong. J.P. Morgan is in throughout American history, and a lot of people don't even fucking realize it.
Yeah, it was J.P. Morgan that put on the fair and had Tesla testing out his current stuff.
Right, but
right.
But to smear and to create fear, Edison bought a goddamn elephant from a circus.
No.
Took her into the middle of New York in I think it was in Times Square, and basically fried an elephant for public view, showing you the dangers of alternating current.
Oh,
Edison actually created the electric chair that executes prisoners based on a fear tactic to show people that AC current is so dangerous.
Well, thank goodness there was some other sadistic fuck out there that saw the chair and said, you know what we could do with the people that kill everybody?
Yeah, it was Edison.
Wow.
Edison owns the patent on the electric chair.
Anything to make a buck, dude.
Pretty much. So basically what happens is all this stuff goes through. But basically what Tesla was saying is, look, DC current is ineffective, and long haul, long range, it's not going to work for what people are going to need power for. But in a direct counter, go fuck yourself from Tesla, he actually gave his own demonstration, and that's the one that every kid has seen in science class with the Tesla coil.
Yeah.
He stood between two coils that were pumping out all this dangerous voltage and everything else, and he held a light bulb in each hand and stood in that field. And there was his body acted as a conductor, and he was able to, like, holding two light bulbs, light them up and not die. Yeah. So bang, it gets sold. And the biggest thing that a lot of people don't understand is when it comes to new technology on anything, it's going to be like, do you remember Blu-ray?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember what the other formats were besides Blu-ray?
DVD HD.
All right.
HD DVD, I think.
Yeah. And do you know what the deciding factor and the deciding industry was to push either one? Same thing with VHS and Beta. Do you know what industry is the one that made that decision for us?
I have no idea.
The porn industry.
No.
Yep.
Porn killed Beta? You bastards.
Well, Beta was a much bigger recording
device. It was a better
device.
Format than VHS. Yeah.
Right, but it wasn't as practical and as cheap to use.
Yep.
So,
and if you're going to splooge on camera, you need some cheap film.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's basically the whole Tesla thing kind of wrapped up. And from that point forward, he gets fucked over and fucked over and fucked over. But he's got patents on everything, like things that you wouldn't even fucking believe. Like he's got the patent on wireless technology. It was Tesla's theory, and it was Tesla's idea on how radio waves would actually work. Yeah. But it was Marconi who took it to market, and Marconi that ran with it. And when he did the first transatlantic message via radio waves, he gets accredited with radio. Oh, Marconi creates radio, blah, blah, blah. And someone asked Tesla, hey, isn't that your idea? And he's actually quoted in an interview when someone says, well, didn't he just use your ideas and your patent to create radio waves? And he's just said, basically, well, if he did and it works, it's fine with me because he's still using like 11 of my patents. But yeah. Marconi gets credited with creating radio. And it's one of those things where that's the perfect thing about being a humanist. He just didn't give a shit about money.
That shit's fucked up, dude. And you know how they whitewash history? The whole description that you're telling me about how Tesla's finding all the flaws in the DC objects that Edison took from other people and tried to recreate. And they ended up fighting over all of that, and they had differences. But this biography that I read on Tesla just cleans it all up and says, Tesla got a job working for Edison. The two worked side by side tirelessly trying to improve Edison's inventions. Eventually, they didn't see eye to eye, and they went their separate ways. That was how they wrote that.
Right. But in reality, Tesla came to Edison, and Tesla didn't even have the quote-unquote, the PhDs behind his name, where they just treated him like a fucking migrant worker that could do a few little cool tricks with electronics.
Yeah, right. They thought he was a fluke.
Exactly. And then when he does, and he does, and he does, and he does, and he creates, and he makes Edison a much better motor, Edison, no, is he grateful? Does he live up to it? No. He just says, I was just joking. I ain't going to give you a dime, but he still takes the fucking technology.
Yeah, in Shakespeare wrote in what was it, Julius Caesar, I think it was, Mark Antony saying, the evil men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. Meaning, like, whenever people do terrible shit, that's all you ever remember of them. And when people do good stuff, that gets buried with them and you rarely hear about it. But I would have to argue that the exact opposite occurs when they're trying to recreate history for future generations so that they don't understand that people got to where they got being swindlers and assholes and stomping on people's faces. Like,
right, but
imagine how they're going to rewrite the history of Bush Jr. now that they've given him an award for helping out the vets, and they're like they were giving them fucking hugs and kisses on stage during the 2016 election.
He's the one that created all of them. That's the thing that bites my ass. Bush created all of these vets, all these wounded vet warriors, all of these fucked up people of an entire generation for what? Oh, weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist?
Yeah, so he could defend his daddy's honor? Well, the fucking
Exactly.
cunt. No, it's to advance that narrative that they're all working for. And so I just saw the parallel, because it's like we all get taught that Edison shows us that if you work really hard, you can, create inventions and get them sold and find new things that affect all of America. But actually what it is if you work really hard and you make these inventions and you're not savvy enough to get a fucking ironclad contract with whomever is funding you, they're going to steal that shit, they're going to get all the glory, and you're going to die in a ditch somewhere with fucking cholera.
Right. And let me put that into millennials so that they'll understand. Bill Gates is not a philanthropist, he's a goddamn fucking thief.
Yeah.
Bill Gates stole the Microsoft platform. Bill Gates fucked his friends out of money. Bill Gates then turned around, brought that shit to market, and broke the law by making it to where any PC created must run Windows, and you must not have this. He is the one that created the Apple model that everyone enjoys today with the fucking Apple Store of you can only buy from us.
Right.
A lot of millennials will never know about Netscape Navigator.
I also like how they paint Steve Jobs as some kind of a fucking cult hero. Even though it was his decision, and even if it wasn't his initial decision, he signed off on using child labor in China to build his goddamn computer parts. Yeah.
But he died a great man, right? No, he died of cancer because...
But you see what I mean, though? It's like the opposite of what Shakespeare was trying to explain.
And that's the thing that a lot of people got to understand is there are very few people that are millionaires or billionaires that didn't fuck over a line of people to get where they are and to get the funds that they have. So Bill Gates can now buy fucking, some fucking poor little Uganda boy in the middle of fucking the Sahara Desert a goat. Great. But a lot of people don't understand is he had an ironclad hold on early technology that basically said, if you run my Windows program, you cannot have any other second or third party vendor software in it.
Yeah, you remember Internet Explorer?
Yeah, no. Netscape Navigator.
All of that shit. Yeah, Netscape Navigator. That's what it was.
Right. It was much better than Internet Explorer, safer, hell of a lot faster. But he actually ended up having to go and because he broke the SEC rules. No one remembers that.
Yeah.
Same thing with Edison. Edison fucking killed animals and fucked people out of money and fucked people this and but history's going to remember him as the kindly old man who gave us the light bulb and the phonograph.
And then he started curing polio around the world.
Right.
Which that's a whole other ball of bananas we can open up in another.
But this all goes back to Tesla. The biggest difference between Tesla was he just didn't give a fuck about money. He didn't, any money that his patents made, he ends up putting it back into, his shop or his lab or inventing.
He saw money as a tool, just like the rest of us really ought.
Correct.
To. But except I don't consider dying as a pauper a success necessarily, just because it's nice to have a little comfort. But
now going back to the AC/DC war, Edison was being backed by industry and this, that, and even Edison. Edison was extremely rich at that time because of all the patents he stole, and he patented them under his name. Thus, now you're going to pay every light bulb that was sold. A small percentage of that went to Edison.
Yeah, he was like, if you've ever seen Shark Tank, Edison was fucking Mr. Wonderful.
Exactly. But during that AC/DC war, Westinghouse, Westinghouse is the guy who backed Tesla. Westinghouse, you still see a lot of their products today, toasters, this, that, the other, that's still under the Westinghouse name. But he was the backer that helped Tesla push AC. Now, during...
he gave him a ton of money to go build that thing in upstate New York, right?
No, that was J.P. Morgan.
That was Morgan? Okay.
That was Morgan. But basically what Westinghouse did is basically he backed Tesla during the AC/DC's, wars, and that's what I kind of call it.
Right.
And in return, Tesla basically was an exclusive person with Westinghouse. A lot of his patents, Westinghouse is the one that brought it to market. Westinghouse then turned around and made a ton of money. And then in the early 1900s, this is the $380 billion. Westinghouse was at the point after DC and AC, the wars were over and everything else because the economy took a shit.
This was around like literally 1901, 1902 or something, right?
Something like that. They kind of glosses over the time frame, but basically they're about to go under.
Yeah.
And basically what Westinghouse does is he comes back to Tesla and he says, hey, look, we need to renegotiate a contract here. Can you take a lower royalty on your patents and your inventions that we're using to take to market just for a little while, just till the company gets back on? And the story goes that Tesla took that, looked at the royalty list and looked at, the agreement and everything else, and looked at Westinghouse and ripped it up and said, whatever I have is yours. Do what you want to do with it. He basically ripped up a contract with royalties, or whatever, even back then would have been worth like billions of dollars. And when later in his life, people asked him about that, this is where the humanist part comes out, because he says, I did that because the company needed my help, and the company helped me when no one else would. They believed in me when no one would help me. Man. So he basically took that humanist attitude of, okay, well, that's $380 billion. Yeah, $380 billion isn't going to really do me much. It's a number. So he rips up the contract and thus basically gives Westinghouse unlimited use of all of these patents, where they now don't even have to technically pay him any royalties, which they later during down his life, they fuck him over as well and don't pay him a goddamn dime on royalties.
Right.
That's why he died poor. That's why he died in a hotel room by himself. Now going back to like you were talking about the
poet. Yeah.
Pretty much. Now the thing is he got JP Morgan to invest. Now this is all before Marconi does the transatlantic radio signal.
Yeah, right.
Basically, what he told J.P. Morgan is that the Tesla tower that he was building was for wireless communication. And J.P. Morgan, a lot of people don't realize, has they have their dirty little fucking hands in everything. J.P. Morgan was a big fucking guy in the States. J.P. Morgan bailed out the United States before the Income Tax Act came in.
Wow. Yeah, that's being Bezos, right?
And pretty much.
Except a lot more interested in being involved in the country. I don't know. I guess Bezos helped out the post office, but I digress.
Oh, no. He did not do it for altruistic motives. He didn't do it because he was a proud American.
No. To make more money, of course.
Exactly, because J.P. Morgan was a banker. And, he was also one of the key guys decided and helped write the income tax law that we all enjoy today. That's why banks and certain institutions don't have to pay a dime on any money that they make, as long as they keep moving it from bank to bank to bank to bank.
Yep.
That's JP Morgan. So he invested in this because his idea was wireless communication brought to you by JP Morgan. He could, sell this technology. The biggest one was everything that JP Morgan did with Tesla. He always looked for a military application. He didn't give a flying fuck about humanity. So that's what Tesla told him it was wireless communication. It was a wireless signal tower.
Yeah.
But in reality, what he was trying to build was a perpetual or a free energy machine, which would harvest current out of the atmosphere and then wirelessly transmit power to whatever the range was on that tower to any home within that range.
Could you imagine? Like there would be all of our stuff with it. There wouldn't be like charging of stuff. It would just be on.
Yes, always constantly be on. There would be no batteries, no charging.
Have a battery on it. You wouldn't have to buy a battery. Like it would just be on. Like, dude.
So documentary and everything else that I was watching, they whitewashed this portion of it. And the reason is because they said it was Tesla's first major failure. This was what caused him the downward spiral, blah, blah, blah. No, I think what happened is he actually was able to do it. And when J.P. Morgan and everyone else figured out, well, wait a minute now, because J.P. Morgan actually owned a lot of power stations that did AC current, and they charged people. Well, now you got a guy who is about to turn around and make it to where you can make something and build it and stick it up in the middle of a fucking field like a cell tower, and now you can, possibly for free, everything in your house on electricity free with no power bill, no transmission line fees, and everyone's like, you can't have that.
The more people do it, the better it works too.
Exactly, because that's design. Right. But the story goes that then Marconi does his transatlantic, and because, Marconi did radio and, showed that he could do a radio across the transatlantic, that's when JP Morgan pulled the funding But it's kind of funny because if you look at the timeline, that's right about the right. Marconi does his transatlantic. That's the reason that is given historically. But kind of funny how in that time frame is roughly around the time that J.P. Morgan finds out what he's really doing with that Tesla tower.
Yeah. Once again, the whitewashing in the biography I read that was based on an A&E special about Tesla, it just says that Tesla got funding from J.P. Morgan to build the Tesla tower in order to give free energy and wireless communication to the world. And when it showed that it didn't work and Marconi was able to make his transatlantic radio call, that's when JP Morgan pulled the money, because he realized that there was never going to be a chance for free energy across the planet. In those words, kind of. And so, again, they're just smearing across. They're suggesting that Tesla didn't have an ulterior motive, or that he didn't understand that Morgan would never have allowed something like that to occur. And here we are. So it's like J.P. Morgan was this altruistic guy that really wanted to give free power to everybody, but he couldn't. Aw, shucks, it didn't work.
Right. But if you notice, is even in that whitewashing, there's the lie, and you can trace that lie.
Yeah.
Okay, who gives a shit if Marconi made the transatlantic communication possible?
They did it for the cover.
Right. He still would have had the possibility of a different system for wireless. So what? Oh, because he beat him to it, he didn't want to play anymore. Well, Tesla proved that DC current was shit and the AC was the way of the future.
And DC was first.
So, you know what? It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
And the other thing is there's a couple of out there that I've seen that talks about him in his later years, his later life. They say that the failure of the Tesla Tower is his descent. But I think it is he understood finally that it doesn't matter what I do to make humanity's life better. There's going to be some fucking miserable piece of shit, whether it is a billionaire or a rival, company. And he was actually at that time having run-ins with the federal government. A lot of people don't know that. The government actually...
the FBI was watching him, right?
Yes, because he figured out a way to use the ionosphere as a weapon.
Yeah, and that was listed in the biography as one of his crackpot ideas as his brain deteriorated.
If it was such a crackpot idea, why is it that the day that he fucking died, the U.S. federal government came in, seized the building, kicked everyone out of the building, barred his family from going into his room, and then they went in and stole every fucking blueprint, paper. They seized everything.
Yeah.
And they never released it back to the family, ever. So if it's so goddamn crackpot, why would you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. It's always hidden in plain sight, right? It's not like they did this secretly and nobody noticed. Like they screamed and yelled about it. His whole family's been loud about it for decades. And yet they're fucked. Government's fine. And there's all sorts of things they're going to release that we haven't even seen yet. Yeah,
I mean, the big one is his direct energy weapons. I mean, the U.S. Army does use direct energy weapons. And I'm not saying that it's they've got certain things that they can use on crowds to disperse them. It's sonic waves.
Yeah, those things will make you shit your pants. I kid you.
Exactly. Not only that, it causes discomfort. Okay, well, everyone's like, well, okay, that's just, wacky. But realistically, I mean, Tesla was able to figure out that the big one was lightning, right? So if you look at Tesla's always equated with lightning. Well, the thing is he figured out that lightning strikes from the ground to the cloud.
Yeah.
He figured out that if there is potentially that much free power just floating above our heads, one of the things that he came up with was an air defense system that would basically defend and be used as a weapon to actually shoot down anything that you wanted to get shot down, or anything that you wanted to do. And basically I've heard a lot of people refer to it as the sword of Zeus.
Yeah, and I totally saw a thing on that.
Yeah, so basically he figured out that if you could actually attract and concentrate electrons and protons out of the atmosphere, you could actually concentrate them and to the point where they hit and would create arc lightning where you wanted it to hit.
It's as if, and I could actually see this getting related to iPad stuff, right? Like you could just draw the line and then it will cause the chain reaction to create the line. And at the end of the line is a dead guy or a blown up thing or.
Well, think about it this way. I mean, a lot of people don't understand is the reason we've gotten more accurate over the last 10 years with weather prediction is because they stopped looking at air different than water, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at currents and you look at the ocean currents and this, that, the other, you can find a lot of the same patterning in the atmosphere with clouds. Well, then you start thinking about, okay, well, why does electricity travel farther in water than the air? Or you know what I mean? Yeah. Exactly. It's all because,
closer together. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're actually within that medium. But it's the same basic fucking principles. So that's what Tesla kind of fucking figured out early on. He also had ideas for long-range radar that we use today. HARP. HARP is a direct bastardization of a theory of Tesla's, which is you can actually send a radio wave, which HARP is a high altitude radio program. I think that's what HARP stands for. But realistically what it is they agitate with radio waves and microwaves a certain portion of the ionosphere, and then technically you can do all kinds of weird shit with it. No one knows because they won't tell us. But I mean, it's the same thing with a ham radio. Why does a ham radio work? Because you're bouncing a radio signal into the ionosphere, and it travels now through the ionosphere without actually really depleting any of its original energy from the signal. That's why a ham radio, you can fire one off the United States and talk to some kid in China or Australia. You don't need wires.
AM radio.
Right, but you don't need wires. You don't need a tower. You don't need a direct line of sight because you're using the ionosphere.
Yeah.
That's what Tesla was kind of trying to tap into when it came to free energy and it came to all this other stuff.
It's scientists like him that really, like, the beauty of it is that his attempts were to make us closer to nature as he created technology that would make us advance ourselves technologically. Mm-hmm. And right now it seems like we're advancing ourselves technologically and getting further and further away from our connection to nature, which, by the way, is the goddamn abundant source of all the energy we'll ever need.
Exactly. The other one is a lot of people don't realize is Tesla's the one that came up with the hydroelectric dam.
Yeah, he ran Buffalo, New York, right?
Yep. Yeah. And that was something that he learned on early on as a child. Well, I mean, that one is not really that hard of a jump to make. But I mean, if you're looking at alternate sources of power, the first thing you're going to do is look at what exists and could that work for this? Or could this work for that? That's all it was. He just took the concept of the water-driven flour mill. Well, instead of turning a fucking stone to grind flour, he figured if you could turn that into creating electricity, now you can create electricity with water. And that's exactly. I mean, but the biggest thing that a lot of people, and this is why history will never give him the proper dues that he's due, is because he wasn't a money-grubbing fucking piece of shit that America loves. He didn't go out and take something like, an EpiPen, which could save someone's life or make someone's life better, or insulin, using the medical field.
Yeah.
And then turn around and say, well, insulin costs $22 to make, but we're going to make sure that we charge you $1,200 for that. If you take the capitalism out, and I don't give a shit what anyone fucking says, capitalism and the worship of money is the second largest religion in the United States. If you take religion and you take the worship of money out of our society, where we are right now, and go to that humanistic religion, if you will, to where all we give a shit is making everyone's life better, there would be no more disease, there would be no more hunger, there would be no more power issues.
And we would naturally gravitate towards, reconnecting with Mother Nature and involving that in our advancement as a species.
Mm-hmm. The thing the thing that I've often wondered about, I mean, if you look at all of our technology, take solar panels, right?
Yeah.
It's a direct ripoff of photosynthesis. Well, why can't you turn around and just bury 2 fucking electrodes in my yard and harvest a millivolt from every blade of grass, and at the end turn around and hook it up to my house? That would be cool. And fucking use that electricity.
You should become a potato farmer.
I should. Or a lemon farmer.
Clocks. Yeah, there you go.
It's the same basic principle. But I remember, this is one that disturbs me, and I one day need to sit down and actually see if I can ever find this shit again.
Yep.
Give you another example. I remember do you remember when the Discovery Channel first came out on cable TV?
Was that before or after it became the Hitler Channel?
No. That's the History Channel. We're talking about the
right.
Discovery Channel.
Discovery. Yes, I do remember when it was first out. It was always showing Nova, right?
Right, Nova, and it was science-based.
Yeah.
Exactly. They used to have a fucking weekly talk show that was technology and science-based. And I remember watching a segment where they talked to this kid. I think he was from MIT or whatever. But he came up with the idea of photovoltaic paint.
Yeah, I remember that.
Right? He painted a goddamn toaster with this stuff, set it in the sun, and toasted his bread.
Yeah.
Right? And at the end of that, I remember them saying that, the military was really interested in this applications, and so was DARPA. And, at the end of it, they were talking about, obviously this is a budding field for technology and, it may not actually hit consumer markets for, 5 to 7 years. Never fucking heard of it again.
Yeah, why can't I paint my car with that shit?
Again, nothing was ever, as far as I know, if this guy didn't sell out, he's probably buried somewhere. Yes, it's the same thing with the water carburetor.
Yeah, right.
That's an American. He's, he wouldn't sell. He created a way to, in my mind, that is the mother of all conspiracy theories, is the water carburetor.
Explain the water carburetor for those of us who have no fucking clue what you're talking about.
Basically, what it did is it made it to where you could run your car off of water instead of gasoline. And basically what it did is it was able to, I don't know how, and I don't understand the science behind it, but basically the water carburetor was able to take just regular water and separate the hydrogen out of the water and use that to run your vehicle on.
Wait, wouldn't that kind of cause the potential for a giant bomb in your car?
If you're doing large amounts, but it would only do that split and burn at the carburetor, not at the fuel tank.
I see. So it's not like it would cause a chain reaction.
No.
And I'm sure he was trying to be safe. Yeah.
Exactly. But the rumor goes, and the conspiracy theories that I've seen it goes, is that, that first the car companies came out and tried to buy this guy out, and he was like, go fuck yourself. Because he was a humanist. He was like, I'm not going to sell you my technology because you're going to take it and stick it in a vault somewhere and it will never see the light of day. Fuck you. Fossil fuel. And this is back in the 50s or 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what? Oil is going to kill our planet. No, I'm going to keep it here. Then the quote unquote, the story goes that the federal government came in and tried to buy it and tried to patent it and tried to do this and tried to do that. And again, he was like, no, because you guys will give it to the car companies and the oil companies and it'll ever be fucking, no one will ever see it. Well, then come to find out a couple, after all these turn downs, the story goes is that he ends up committing suicide by shooting himself twice in the back of the head.
Arkancided, for a lack of a better term.
Arkancided. And, magically he dies and no one can find any of the carburetors. No one can find any of the prototypes.
And his family's not saying shit, right?
No, his family is like, where's all this stuff?
Oh, so they just don't know. Like, I would assume the government went in and said, you see what happened to that guy? It's really tragic. Let's try not to let that happen again.
No, actually, the story goes is that the family was behind him 100%. And, he was on the cusp of making it to where it would have been something that could have been installed and retrofitted to any vehicle. And he committed suicide, shooting himself. I do believe it was shooting himself twice in the back of the head. And then all of his prototypes disappeared. All of his documentation disappeared. And that is what actually started the whole black helicopter alien conspiracy, because I do believe the guy was from Texas and the family reported seeing black helicopters, but you couldn't hear them.
Right. And guys, like, all you can hear is a dude like zipping down a rope or something, right?
Right. That's I could be completely bastardizing that. Like I said, I've never taken a real deep dive in it because you can't find anything about it anymore.
Well, that's the fun part, because folks at home that are listening to this that think we're completely full of shit, they can go to the website and tell, as of, I think, tomorrow, you're going to be able to go to the website and tell Jesse Chaney just how you feel about all of his nonsense.
Ooh,
and
I get hate mail.
And we encourage you to look all of this shit up. And if you don't agree, holy fuck, like, leave a comment. We'll actually talk back, I promise.
Oh, yeah. And, if we get enough hate going and enough everything else, anyone wants to come on, we'll bring it on. We'll debate.
Bring it on.
I got no problem. Bring it on. No, and like I said, right now, like I said, I've been watching a lot of Carlin, and it's getting to the point now when you look at the shit that's been going on, right, politically, is again, I dare you, when we're done with this, go and watch a half hour, 45 minutes of Carlin Bits and tell me that's not what we're living.
Hell yeah, I own I have every one of his videos. I have all of that stuff. Yeah, I got interviews with him. He's fantastic. And, Bill Hicks is another comedian that's dead now that is a good one to look into as far as someone who is trying to expose what's going on in the background. He went a little bit outlandish here and there, but to be honest, that guy had a lot of insight that folks tend to overlook.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's where I am right now, like politically. When you look at the shit that goes on with Trump and you look at the shit that goes on with the whole election cycle, especially here in Georgia, like that made me basically really look at Carlin as my goddamn spirit animal. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, they're not in it for me. I'm not a billionaire, so no one's going to give a fuck what I think politically. Right. The minute I can start buying lobbyists and I can start buying politicians and I can start buying all of this stuff, then my vote will actually fucking matter. But I mean, here, Kemp wins Georgia. He won. Yeah. Yet there's still a shit ton of votes that haven't been counted and will never be counted.
It's fucking ridiculous.
And wow, gee, the white rich guy who is running for re-election wins re-election, but he's the one that was able to run the election.
I guess the concession was at the behest of let's just move this thing along, I guess. But I don't know. I'm not going to cast. I'm not going to put her down or anything. But I wish she hadn't conceded.
She didn't concede.
She didn't. I thought there was like a press conference and everything.
No. Basically, what it is she's not conceding, but it's kind of like conceding from what I understand, but it's not because she's going to challenge it in court.
I see. Okay, so she said I'm moving to the next stage or something.
Correct. Okay, I mean, it's kind of like the political version of an Alfred's plea.
Well, yeah, right. That's kind of like what's going on in Florida, in Broward County, with Debbie, what's her name, Schatz, getting that other woman who decided to step down. Right. I'm going to go ahead and retire. Right after I've gone ahead and cheated one last time for my pal. But
exactly,
I want to see somebody actually go to jail for this. I want to see people in prison, or at least, I don't know, find them so much that they turn into, Tesla's end of his life, right? Why can't these people get fucked for this?
Well, the reason because look who they're fucking. They're fucking over us, but look who they're fucking for. They're fucking it over for big business. They're fucking it over for legislators. They're fucking it over for quote unquote people in power.
Big sugar and detention centers. Yeah, man.
Exactly.
And and then you look at someone like Alexandria, AOC as I'll call her, although it is odd seeing AOC everywhere and people aren't talking about wine, for my wine enthusiasts out there. Mm-hmm. But she's getting a lot of flack from people, and she's literally, like, she was a Bernie delegate. She worked she created a publishing company with a grant from this Bronx group that's like a banking thing that helps small businesses. She's been involved in government. I think she worked for Ted Kennedy as a volunteer, an internship, I think, with the immigration stuff. And I think they sold her short when people were like just giving out the headlines, and nobody ever reads the fucking articles. They just read the first 25 words, right? Mm-hmm. They say she was a bartender, and then she beat Crowley, and now she is going to be a representative. But she went from bartender to representative. And no, she graduated with a BA in economics and politics. And she's been involved in all of these things. She's had scholarships. She's seen hardship, but by no means is she just bartender.
Right. But at the same time, you are inadvertently going to fuck that narrative.
Yeah, I probably already have fucked the narrative trying to remember all the things I was reading.
No, the reason being is because they wanted to basically put out that, no, she was just a bartender. She's just a concerned citizen who paid attention and taught herself about politics, but she comes from the working class. No, she doesn't.
Well, she comes from the working class, but she... No, she got a head start by getting connected with these things. I guess my point is she's not necessarily an insider. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that she actually has far more accomplishment, and people actually need to put their nose to the grindstone on these kinds of things if they want to do what she did. You can't just go run out of the blue. you actually need to know what you're talking about first. And
well, exactly.
she embodies that, but she also embodies like the idea of when you get out of college with a good degree, you end up having to 10 bar anyway. When your father dies from cancer, your mother and you have to like actually focus on struggling to keep your home. Then that makes a big difference in how your career path's going to go. But people are still giving her shit for not having enough money to move into an apartment. I made a joke, by the way. And
I know.
into a dumb argument with Josh, and hey, I take his point clearly, and I don't think I was trying to burn a witch, but we'll leave it at that. I was trying to kid around because I thought it was funny. Oh no, she has no place to stay. I mean, somebody's giving her a place to stay. She got a GoFundMe to have a place to stay, and she, nobly so, took that money and gave it to a charity. I'm saying I tried to scrutinize, but there's nothing left for me to scrutinize. All she has to do now is fail herself and vote the wrong way on something involving war.